right, so what's up, world? Here you have a sliver of the Divine Sons. Yours truly, Dan Johns, representing South Carolina, and we also have
Your boy
gentlemen.
Non the Griot representing Atlanta, Georgia, and everything Stardust. And you know we Stardust, baby. What's up, though?
The
I
100
had to
Punch
do it.
Champ, baby. Atlanta, Georgia, by way of Newark, New Jersey, Brick City. What up?
All right. So we're here to try to do something a little different this time. Many of you, if you're watching this, you are probably either already somewhat familiar with the Divine Sons movement, or you're a hip hop head that's just being hip to the Divine Sons movement. Either way, welcome, thank you, salute.
You're on the right path.
Yeah, you're on the right path. We're heading in the right direction, and we want to give you some behind the scenes insight into our newest project, which is entitled Anon.
Conscious and Cadillac, though it's actually
Conscious ampersand.
Cadillac. Please say the ampersand.
All right, Conscious ampersand Cadillac. So let's just start right there, man. Such a loaded title, and we have so many layers to it. Y'all break it down.
Yo, so I'm gonna start in the middle, Punch.
Yeah.
You start in the middle with the idea that choice unto itself is an illusion. And what I mean to say by that is that we don't stop something from existing by deciding to do something else. So there is death and there is life. There is love and there is hate. There is sunshine and, like right now in Atlanta, there is rain. It is necessary. So the ampersand is that that glues us together, that allows us to be both preacher and pimp, if you will, that allows us to be street and school, if you will. So knowing that us as a community, an African-American community, and even knowing us as a hip-hop community, knowing that it ain't just one or the other. It's not just boom, boom, bap, and ignorant lyrics, because every now and then when you get it right, they blend together, i.e. an ODB, for example. So I start with the ampersand. Talk about the other part.
Yeah, I love that analysis, man. Like you said before, man, it's and never or, you know. With the Conscious and Cadillac, the way that the title and the idea came, Anon had dropped the line on a song called Lifestyle. I'm Big Crit with this shit, Conscious and Cadillacs. And that's it. Basically, it just means, man, we're conscious rappers. We're socially aware. We're always addressing the issues. But just because we are, it don't mean that sometimes we don't get a little colorful. And we embrace both of that. You know what I'm saying? It's not, we're this or that. You know what I'm saying? We're all of that. It's completely encompassing. You'll see me in that lack with a book.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Reading, knowledge and educate myself. And I think that we should start embracing that, as a culture. Hip hop gets divided up so often into two factions. You got your conscious faction and then you got your other faction. When it's not really that. It's all one. You know what I'm saying? It's not or, it's always and.
Recently on Facebook, they've been going in and on other social media platforms, Instagram memes, about the Hotep dude, the conscious dude who says all of the right conscious, peace queen, mother earth, star moon, chasm, and everything about knowledge in your third eye, and I want to see you and I want you to be my queen, and then he just ends up being some dude that's smashing, right? So this whole Hotep or the anti-Hotep movement has gone into play. And I think what happens is when you stratify, when you separate us, when you divide us into just one side or the other, you don't get the true examples of us, but also you don't get a real look at ourselves and at yourselves to have a real litmus test to see if you really live in this life. The reality is, and all due respect to God's supreme understanding, who, definitely in his growth and definitely in brotherhood and mentorship has lived this in life, his degree of righteousness is not exclusionary. His degree of righteousness is on the block as well as in, the cipher and the conversation. And so it has to be that way. And just, Willie Lynch, if you will, the reality is that separation of our ideals, that separation of our soldiers from our thinkers, our academics from our artists, is what allows us to not be as powerful and not be as impactful as we can and should be.
Well, what I and being a contributor, but not an active, I didn't have a hand in the creation of the concept. But for me, Conscious and Cadillac, what I take from it is that there are no titles. Like I heard Punch mention that we're conscious rappers, but we'll also do something else. And I heard you say, Anon, how you once you start labeling us, you're kind of boxing us in, typecasting us. Like for me, Conscious and Cadillac represents hip hop in the sense that it's a melting pot, and that you can't just put somebody in this box, because then when you put them in the box and they step outside of that box, then you're confused, and you're limiting them, you're limiting their artistry. I mean, Van Gogh just didn't paint the same thing all the time, or people don't write the same type of songs all the time. If all you want from somebody is this one particular style, that tends to lend itself to a short career and less art and more commercialism. You know what I'm saying?
It's kind of like, Melly Mel's White Lines.
Mm.
There's this controversy about that song. Is White Lines in praise of cocaine, or is White Lines against cocaine? And honestly, it's kind of hard to say, because there are definitely some parts of the song where it seems as though he's giving you that cautionary tale, but then just the rhythm of that white lines sounds like before, right? So it's kind of like, how could he even tell you the ills of that powder if he maybe didn't experience it himself already?
Yeah. And I think from a group standpoint for the Divine Sons, people, just even from our name and even from our history, like people who've known us since college, or people that got on board with, We Beautiful People, or just Oxygen Mask or different records, they expect a certain sound from us. And I don't even mean sound necessarily by beats. I'm saying they expect us to stay in a certain lane. But the truth of the matter is that Conscious and Cadillac coming right now is perfect, because there are so many layers to this collective. I'm hesitant to use the word group, because it's beyond just being a group. And I think that if we can touch on certain different songs and certain things that you guys do here, and I say you guys because let's be realistic about this. The Hunch Punch Champ and the Non Negrio championed Conscious and Cadillac, and everybody else were like pieces to the puzzle that they put where we needed to go. So that's why we're taking this approach. So if I say you guys, it's not because I'm not a part of it. It's because game recognized game. I salute the architects of this one. You know what I'm saying?
No doubt.
So what was like we've talked about the topic, and the subject, the overlying theme to the whole project, but what did you guys, because I know what it sounds like, but if you were to try to describe this album to someone from a sonics perspective, what should they expect?
Sonically, man, it's a real textured sound. That's the first thing I could think. It's really textured. There's no thin in here. There's the instruments, the melodies, everything is coming. It's gutter. It's raw. It's in your face. It's hard. There's 808s. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of South influence in the music. You'll hear references to 8 Ball of MJG, references to the Young Bloods, big Outkast fans, Dungeon Family. You know what I'm saying? You might hear inspirations from that. It's real thick. I guess that's how I would describe it. It's real thick. It's real Southern inspired as well.
For me, it's like a soundtrack album that you can put in your car and ride in. Now, you got a Cadillac, I promise you it's going to beat. You got that Cutlass, it's going to beat. But whatever you riding, if it got a little sound to it, it's going to knock. But I think it'll carry you throughout that journey from that day, from getting to work, leaving work, and going home and riding around. I think all of the emotions that we find ourselves feeling in a day, you can get here. And sometimes I think that in an effort to make the tightest project or to make the most perfect sound of that moment. I feel like sometimes we have a tendency to lose that. And artists sometimes have a tendency to even box themselves in. So,
Hmm.
the comparative that I'll make, which is not necessarily a sound comparative, y'all know me, world know me, I'm kind of long-winded. Nikki Giovanni has this piece called Seduction. And in theory, it's probably H. Rap Brown, Jamil El-Amin, that she's speaking of. And she's coming home one day in this cute dress on, and she's slowly undressing herself, and she's slowly undressing him. But it's punctuated by him saying, "But you know what the brothers need? And let me tell you about this sister. And did you hear about this moment right here?" And then finally, at the end of it, she's undressed, he's undressed, he's unaware, and he asks her, "Nikki, don't you think this is counter-revolutionary?" And I think that's kind of a problem in the way that we approach things. Sometimes the puritanical love doesn't get the passion, and the passion doesn't get the puritanical love. So a man might indeed spend money at a strip club adoring strippers, and all of his wild fantasies in his head's going there, but then he goes home and he treats his woman like an icebox, like she's frigid, like she doesn't want to do anything. And the reality is, again, he separated himself from that. He's put her in that box. So the sound of the album is that it's all of that going in together, and not in a not in a maniacal way where
Hmm.
you lose your mind with it. I think everything folds in, as you said, punch, textured, and layerly, but it gives you that opportunity in that day to go through all of your human emotions.
If I may paint a picture
Mm.
for the people unfamiliar with the process or familiar with what they think the process is for every musician, you know how you'll hear like Jay-Z locked himself in the studio for 2 weeks, or
Mhm.
Common flew down here with this producer and locked himself in the studio. What typically happens with the Divine Sons, especially with the Hunch Punch Champ and Anon, is they'll be like, "Yo, we need to get up this weekend." Punch will go to the store and buy some meat. Anon will get a bottle of wine and maybe grab him some fish or something, you know what I'm saying, or some veggies or whatever from the market, and then they'll get together and they'll build and they'll cook and they'll have spirits, and Plex will drop through, Billy Northern will come through, Grown Rome will drop through, Vera will slide through. If I'm in town, I'm coming through.
Already.
And what happens is it's like we used to call it Divine Sons Days, because it always took place on Sundays, but sometimes it happens on Saturdays. And what it is it's just for my church goers, it's fellowship. You know what I'm saying?
Fellowship. Yep.
Fellowshipping, and you start building on these concepts. And what would happen, I'd be here in South Carolina a lot of times, but we'd always be talking on the inbox, and I would hear y'all talking about these concepts. Like, I remember hearing y'all talking about some of these concepts, like F12 and
Mm.
science itself, and beautiful mind. I remember these concepts that came about from y'all just hanging around, cooking, eating, playing video games, watching TV, whatever, doing what brothers do. And the music that came out of it ended up being inspired. And for those that don't know us, the that's what we champion. We use the O word all the time, organic.
Mhm.
And when I listen to Conscious and Cadillac, I hear I hear those build sessions. You know what I'm saying? I can picture, Hunch flipping meat on the grill while the beat's playing in the background, trying to get his bars together, or Nas sitting on the couch playing PlayStation with the kids, and formulating a plan or a way to approach the song or whatever. And I think that's what makes it dope, is that it is so natural, like nothing's forced.
That's exactly what it is. Nothing
Yeah,
is forced.
It's
because I
kind of like F12 and No More Choirs. Kind of, I think, all came out of the same session. And I'm not gonna get too unnecessarily political, but it was another one of those horrible atrocities, another of those crimes against humanity, another one of those Black lives not mattering at the hands of the police and of society in general. And it was still a time when we were building and sitting back, and that anger was just sitting in our chest, and like we had to do something. And I remember No More Choirs, like we had a track, and Plex and I just like went ape shit, as the phrase goes. Like both of
Yeah.
us grabbed our pads. Both of us were scribbling. Plex actually uses his phone. He was outside. He went outside, came back like 20 minutes later with his bars done. While he's laying his bars done,
Mm.
I'm writing mine down. Like so, by the time he's done with his, I'm jumping right back in. And so it was.
And the funny thing about that day was we were talking on the inbox. Y'all, I knew y'all were getting together that day, and I was cooking on the grill outside for my fam in South Carolina. And it was made mention of the fact that, hey, Dan, you don't have any beats on the record yet.
Yeah.
And I had my laptop set up outside anyway, playing music while I was grilling, and I found a sample while I was cooking and chopped it up and sent it over like that. While you guys were grilling in Atlanta, I was grilling here, and I just found a little sliver of time to get something together to present to y'all, and it was like lightning in a bottle. I didn't expect it to be as polished as it was, and it just works out. That's how it works out. And I think you know our best our best, and I say I'm talking about us as people,
Mhm.
we're at our best when it's not forced. If you have to make yourself talk about a topic, you probably should just put it down and come back to it later.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not natural.
Exactly. That's the, like my process is, I'm good for throwing on a beat in the car, throwing on a beat while I'm cooking,
Mhm.
and just going about it, and subconsciously coming up with, ideas and concepts and bars just out of nowhere. And it's we never approached the song or approached the album saying we need this type of song or we need this type of song or we don't have this type of song. We would just listen to music and listen to beats that was being brought to us and oh, this is what I feel. This is what you feel. What do you feel? And it would just grow from there. Oftentimes we would get beats and seeds would be planted, for ideas and concepts, but the song wouldn't actually be done for a couple of months. We wouldn't even go back to the song for a couple of months, not until somebody actually was in the right space to set it off. And that's what makes the music so just effortless and real and honest, is that nobody was ever, we're going to talk about this for a track, we're going to
Right.
talk about this, we need this. No, we let the beats speak for themselves, and then we spoke to them. That's how the music came out. And that's why, shoot, all of our work is like that. It's that guy.
No grocery
Yeah.
list, no laundry list. Just let it be. And I even love, getting ahead of ourselves. Love the beauty of the outro when it was the exact. It was kind of the inverse where the words and
Yeah.
the emotions came out, and then the music came with the words and the idea.
Well, let's talk about the outro and the intro collectively because they play off of the song titles and you know the way it came together. Anon, ever since we've known you, and you've always been a poet and an MC to the point where if there was an open mic, shout out to Underground Live back in the days at Morehouse,
Hey,
there
y'all,
was
get footage of that. I'm about to digitize footage of that.
that's what's up.
Yes, sir.
It wouldn't be a surprise to see you rocking over an instrumental freestyle, but then you might be presenting a piece that you wrote or doing a freestyle poem. And as such, we always come to you, we being everybody, for words, poems. Like even on Alpha Writer, for He Writes, I hit you up for a poem. So when I found out that you guys were going to do spoken word, to intro the album and subsequently to outro the album, basically Conscious being the intro and Cadillac being the outro, my mind was blown that Punch tackled the first half of that.
And I
Punch,
loved it.
yeah, how did that come about, man?
Well,
Well,
I'm always one for a challenge, and just like you said, Anon is the poet. He's the guy. He's the spoken word guy. And I don't know. Maybe I was sitting back one day, but the idea popped in my head. I can do that shit too. And that's really where I'm gonna try it. I at least want to try. So when we talked about, once it was apparent that we were gonna do an album, I was like, man, I'm gonna do the intro on this album. And I was like, yeah, go ahead. And I didn't really think anybody took me seriously, but I was like, you know what, I am gonna do it. And
Mm.
I actually got some space one day on a bus trip, and just started writing. And it was strange. It was just coming to me. It's the first and probably only spoken word I'll ever do, But yeah, it spoke to me. It was actually an enjoyable experience. I can, you know, I see why he get up there. You know what I'm saying? It's actually writing and putting down the thought without the constraints of a beat. You know,
Yeah,
without a 4/8 bar measure or something. You know, I'm not having to make sure I hit the hi hat or hit this. It was just straight up writing, and it felt good. So yeah, we went with it. I think I did okay.
yeah,
Man,
you did.
beyond okay. And the reality is, I wasn't planning on doing any spoken word on it. After he said he was going to do the spoken word intro, I thought that was ironic enough. Thought that was beautiful, especially after I heard it. You know, threw some ad lib vocals behind it, giving it some body, creating a conversation with it. And I was done with the idea of any spoken word on the project till we kind of started, like, you know, again, just looking and listening at things. We had thought about an outro and thought about other people playing around with the outro, and it was kind of like, yo, this is what you do. How are you not gonna do what you do on what you do? So, you know, borrowing from that same energy that Punch put out with the consciousness, decided to go in the Cadillac, and it's so interesting because again, both the intro and the outro weave those narratives well together. The intro is conscious and Cadillacs. The outro is conscious and Cadillac. It just happens to be Cadillac. But a shout out to Billy William Northam, DJ Nodos, Mr. Zipper Shirt, Ventilation, who took acapellas and honestly took that thing to church, who created a praise and worship and sermon moment at the end of the project. And I love it because that wasn't even the intention behind it. I just thought we'd keep it simple, spoken word, throw some 808s behind it. But he felt something. And, you know, Punch, not to go too far into it, but you know what, our brother Face hitting us up and giving us this idea of what he saw, and that in some ways you feel when you listen to certain songs, No More Choirs and even Trouble, you hear commentary on the state of the church, of the black church, and yet even within that, some of the words and some of the energy, some of the cadence, some of the music comes into that to clarify that even those statements is not a denouncement, but it's more like what we want to do. Like, how can we be better? How can we all be better? How can we be better
Yeah.
musically? How can we be better as people? And if
I
we're gonna
wanna.
put out music, it has to matter.
Yeah, absolutely. You bring up no more choirs, and the song speaks for itself. And you know, we're giving you a lot of background here, so you can know what to expect. But some of it, you really have to grab the song to hear it. But with the No More Choirs record, which is the record that I produced, and those that know me know, that I'm Christian. You know what I mean? I believe that Jesus died for my sins, and I've come up in a family of strong believers. And and when I say strong believers, that includes pastors, ministers, people with different levels of involvement in the church. Now, um, with that being said, the record in the record is not one that I find offensive, because it speaks on the state of, to me, in my opinion, and I'm gonna let y'all elaborate in a second. It speaks on the state of today's church and its role or lack thereof in our community. Because you know, there are people who will tell you, with, and it's, definitely some facts in it, that once we were brought to this country, we being black Americans, are when black African Americans now, but Africans, that we embraced the religion of the slave owners, which, there's some truth in that. But you can't overlook the importance of the role of the church in bringing us through tough times. Even as slaves or freed slaves or the civil rights movement, the church has always been a part of the movement. You know what I'm saying? Because the church gave education, it gave structure, it gave a foundation for a lot of movements. But just like hip hop, just like anything, once they realized that there was money in it and there was revenue to be had, um, that a lot of churches became corrupt,
Hmm.
and the institution of the church became more important than the spirituality and the community ties that once were dominant.
You know, it's complex. It's complicated. So first and foremost, I'll say that No More Choirs itself, it of course plays on the idea of preaching to the choir. Like, we don't need any more choirs because in essence the choir is passive. No disrespect about the choir, but the choir is passive because the pastor is preaching and they know the pastor, they know his cadence, they're part of what he's doing.
Mm,
So in that sense, like we don't just need people to nod their heads and say, "Yep, you're right. Yep, that's wrong. Yep, that's horrible." We need active. And if you're preaching to a choir, all you're doing is speaking to people who already agree with you anyway, who
mm,
share the same thing, who don't dissent, and who don't cause you to sharpen your steel or your metal on what you're talking about. Um, as it relates to the church, I definitely agree with you. You know, it's a complex reality. The fact is, we're speaking English right now, which you can call the language of the conqueror. Our existence in America is an extension of slavery, right? But
mhm,
what it is also is an extension of our human spirit and of our physical human spirit and of our spiritual human spirit, to be redundant. So, you know, as you pointed out, our a lot of our ancestors learned how to read because of the Bible.
yep.
To bring it back to the civil rights movement, where did we have those meetings?
Hmm.
Who was the voice of those meetings? Where was the hub where we knew we could get everyone together to have this conversation? And where were those people that were kind of, I want to say, let's say, immune from the lawlessness, meaning to say that they were respected pillars and members of the community. And so we needed them for our voice to be heard. I think that, you know, the commentary right now is yes, it should not be a division and it should not be simply financial. However you want to pay your pastor and however you want to spoil your pastor, that's not a conversation that I'm going to get into too much, but I do believe that community outreach is imperative. I do believe that educational programs are imperative, and I do honestly believe that whether it's comfortable to say it or not, the church is both a religious and a political organization, and it's shown its political
It's true.
affiliation in the past, and it's imperative for me right now when we're seeing young brothers dying, when we're seeing young sisters dying, when we're seeing the prison industrial complex just running completely rampant, and we're seeing all of these things, that one of our most powerful, most influential, and most lucrative institutions, I would rather see more movement, more action, more support in our people against those real evils that we're facing right now.